It's biblical, Paul. You should have known that. Oh, and welcome to Kitchen Table Progressive, starring Joyce Nance and um, we're gonna
Paul Richardson.
Paul Richardson, but we're gonna be changing his name next week, so get ready for it.
I'm going to be changing my name since I need an alibi, right?
That's right.
Um,
Okay, we have a subject today, and Paul Richardson will tell you what it is.
well, once again, we need to talk about gun violence, and because of the shooting at Michigan State University, which I'm a proud alumnus. Um, now, the good thing is that this is not because the shooting was on campus. Doesn't the good news is that it's not an indication of more gun violence on college campuses by students, because this person had nothing to do with the university and never has. He was never a student there, never worked there, had no connection with the university, but apparently lived in the surrounding area. I'm not exactly sure where, but the gist of the point is this: that as soon as it happened, a Republican Michigan, somebody in the legislature. The thing wasn't 15 minutes old, and he's putting out an NRA video on YouTube, or sorry, on Facebook, about how bad gun control is, while people are being shot. The incident lasted, almost. I think it was over 2 hours before the suspect was apprehended, and then shot himself. So he shot 3 people dead on campus, wounded 5 others, and then shot himself. I mean, if he would have just started with himself, we could have avoided all of this, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if it's the order. The order does count in this case.
Yep.
But as they say, the bodies are still warm. We heard. I already wrote these things down when I got emails about this. That get ready to what we're going to hear is Democrats are politicizing gun violence. That's the first thing, and it's too early to talk about any guns because families are still grieving, right? We had that, and then there's the
don't forget the thoughts and prayers. Or was
thoughts and prayers, right? I was getting to that. Thoughts, yeah, but our thoughts and prayers are with them.
Right.
And besides, what new laws? No new laws could have stopped this. What we need to do is enforce the laws we have. And why should law-abiding citizens have to? Why should we pick on law-abiding citizens? Oh, mental illness is the problem. Mental illness is the problem. There's a growing list. It's like 6 or 7, things that they have here. Mental illness is the problem, and so why should we infringe upon the rights of law-abiding citizens to protect themselves from these kinds of nuts with guns? So they're afraid of nuts with.
The problem is that the Republicans have politicized the problem, and thus it can't be solved.
Yeah. But at the same time, I look at it this way. Yes, we should politicize the problem, because what that does is say, actually, politicizing it means let's see whose policies are to blame for what we have. And I think it's quite clear that in general, it's the Republican policies about the gun industry, and their policies are what we are living under right now. So yes, it's fair to politicize it. Are the families grieving? Of course. And do our thoughts and prayers do anything for them? No. But here's the crux of the fallacy, is that the two that go together. No new laws would have prevented this, and we should enforce the laws that we have on the books now. And what they claim is, and here's where the lie comes in, or certainly the misleading part, and I think to a large degree it has to do with their ignorance. Then we get down into the facts. So this man, who's a 43-year-old, 44-year-old man who lives in the area, has was cited for a gun crime, and he's been on probation. So they go to the mental illness because his father says, his 66-year-old father says that since the death of his mother, he'd become, by the way, they say, very good man. His Bible quoting father says that since his mother died, he's almost become evil. I mean, that's pretty strong language, and very angry. This is what his father says, that he's
almost evil. I'm gonna.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's in that range, almost evil. His anger has become almost evil since the death of his mother. Now, I don't think that. I mean, when a family member dies, you can be all very grieved, but angry at the world that you want to shoot them. I suspect something else is going on. So I don't know if the gun incident for which he's on probation took place before his mother died or after, but let's presume it came afterwards. Okay. Here's the problem is they keep saying, yeah, so he's on probation. He was not prosecuted to the full extent of the law, and that's why he's out. And they're saying that the Ingham County prosecutor's office showed favoritism towards him because he was black. And now blacks are getting favoritism because they weren't prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a curious one. But
could
yeah,
they say the same thing for Kyle Rittenhouse?
Right. Yeah. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
so
he wasn't prosecuted because he was white.
So here's the problem is that 95% of all criminal charges never go to trial.
They're pled out. They're pled
You can't just say we should enforce the gun laws that we have on the books. If 95% of all criminal charges don't go to trial, then we're not enforcing any of the laws.
Well,
so to say that,
but the thing of it is if people only knew that the court system is set up for that, they're not set up to prosecute all the crimes. They're set up to beg, borrow, and plead the criminals to plead out.
Right, because ironically, in the last 120 years since the turn of the 20th century, when we started having more legislative textualism to define crimes, and we kind of took things out of the common law judicial arena, and it has to do with the prosecutor's the only game in town. The judges don't have much choice when it comes to, they have to follow the textual law, because legislatures decided they don't want judges defining crimes, and they don't want judges letting people off based on some sort of wacky common law idea of justice. So the criminal mind, or the mens rea, it's the mens actus. The act is more important than what the intent was. So, but the problem is, you're right. It was set up to have plea bargaining because the prosecutor is the only game in town. And so here's the problem. If you want to prosecute every case, I mean, we're prosecuting 5%. The courts are slammed already, and we're only prosecuting 5% of the cases.
Right.
So if you want every case prosecuted to the fullest extent, that means you need more courts, you need more judges, you need more prosecutors, you need more public defenders, and you need more jails and prisons.
Well,
so, but
I mean, I think if you were to count that the gun cases or crimes involving guns is going to equal more than 5%. So even if you said you would prosecute all of the gun cases, that would be more than 5%, and 5% they already can't handle in terms of getting people speedy trials. So
that's a good point. Now, I'm glad you said that. This is going to go to my point. And the reason we have plea bargains is because of the guarantee of a speedy trial. Is the prosecutor has to either do your business or get off the pot.
Yeah.
So this is where I'm getting to the point. Okay, so we don't prosecute, and that's not what they're not telling you. Oh, he got off. And by the way, for every case like this man's case, where he apparently had no previous criminal history, he had an incident with a gun, I don't know the details of it, but he was on probation. For everyone like him, there's 300 more in Ingham County just like him. So what the prosecutor's going to do is prosecute the ones that are the most likely convictions and the ones that have the guy who's got a record as long as your arm.
Well, or the not white guy.
I'm sorry. Say again.
Or the not white guy. That.
Yeah. Well, but this guy was not white, so he. That's why they're saying he got.
Yeah.
Well, they're saying that in liberal Ingham County, where the university is, this guy who's black, he got off because of the woke prosecutor. And
well, what when they say got off, what do they mean by that?
That he wasn't prosecuted to the full extent of the law, and that's a good question because actually, he is in technically a worse position than if he violates his probation, he goes directly to jail. That's an admission of guilt. So in other words, he could have, if they would have taken this thing to trial, and one of the reasons the prosecutor didn't take this to trial, as you know, is that there may have been details about the case that she thought were not the strongest for a prosecution. The police could have done something erroneous. It was a technicality. It wasn't right for prosecution. It didn't have the best chance of conviction.
So did they dismiss it, or did he just plead down to something lesser?
He pled down, I think, to a lesser charge with probation.
So something like conspiracy to use a gun or something.
I don't know the details.
Well, that's the usual go-to.
Yeah. Okay. Well, whatever it is, he's on probation.
A lesser charge.
But he wasn't supposed to have a gun. Okay. Okay. So here's where I'm getting to the point: is that what we need is maybe more criminal gun laws wouldn't be effective, because what would happen to them? They'd run into the same backlog in the criminal courts, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what we need is more civil liability laws that would hold people
about the insurance and treating it like a car.
Well, no, more than that, because look at, so here's another fact of it is that people said that this man, he was known, his father said that his father knew a lot about him. His father said he was becoming an angry man. And then it was said after the shooting, the neighbors said, yeah, well, they'd heard him shooting the gun in the backyard of the house.
Uh-huh.
But none of them called the police. And if they'd have called the police, they'd have known they had a gun. So they're blaming the neighbors on the media. And then I went, wait a minute. Why didn't the father call the police?
Uh-huh.
So the liability I would put in this case is, where did he get the gun? And in this case, he lives with his father in his father's house. Is not his father sheltering a probatee who's in violation of his probation, who he knows he's in violation because he knows he has a gun?
Okay, but I mean, somebody else might just say, if there were gun laws that had any kind of teeth, and somebody with a record of any kind of gun record that went to buy a gun, they couldn't buy the gun, and they couldn't buy it at a dealer. They couldn't buy it at a show. They couldn't buy it from their next door neighbor. I mean, they could still buy it, but it would just be a lot harder. So,
well, that's true, but that's what I'm saying is that here's what we need is a wider spread of liability, because what's happening is it's not mental illness. If you start looking at the gun cases, it's a lot of it is family dysfunction. The family were the ones who could have prevented access to the gun, because in this case, the father knew that he had a gun and he was living with the father. Now, I'll guarantee you, if this Bible quoting father would have never allowed this guy to deal drugs out of his house, because the drug laws would be that he would lose his house. It's drug forfeitures of your home and your property and all your money. Okay. And that's what we need to have for guns. If you're sheltering somebody who's on probation, but I don't think the father, not clear, but I don't believe the father is the one who provided him access. He just enabled him to have it while he's on probation. Somebody else did, which meant that somebody else sold him the gun without checking to be sure that he wasn't on criminal probation. which a background check should do, but whoever sold him the gun didn't do that. And I would say that if you sell a gun to somebody, it's your responsibility to check to see that they are not on criminal probation.
Okay, but I mean, that is just, I mean, that is like a solution. I mean, it's not a solution, it's a something. But, obviously you can still buy a gun. You can make a gun.
Yeah.
You can 3D print a gun. There's a
If
lot
you
of
have, wait, but still, we're still looking at if this guy makes a gun in his father's house with a 3D printer. I mean, does he have the wherewithal to even do that? You have to start shutting down avenues of ways to do things.
Well, no, I understand that, but I'm just saying that, yes, but that is all steps that you have to take. But what you're saying is like, I think of Israel and the Palestinians, that if a Palestinian does something like blow up a cafe or whatever, or even less than that, but and Israel finds out who it is, then they will go and blow up your parents' house.
Well, that's a little different because
wait
a minute, there's other things here, because part of the question is, why do victims of gun violence have no legal standing? Because here, and what I mean by that,
it's not just victims of gun violence, it's victims have no legal standing when it comes to getting rights. The victims' rights are almost non-existent.
Well, what I'm saying though is that's true. And but we used to hear, in fact, I don't know how, until recently, I thought that's all we heard about, that the liberals, the Democrats are soft on crime. And what about I mean, even Donald Trump was talking about the woman who was shot on the Golden Gate Bridge by somebody who had an illegal who had come in from Mexico. And he was talking about, remember he said they're all murderers and rapists?
Yes.
Okay. But where are they on victims' rights? I mean, they want to, the whole thing is after the fact. They want to find who to blame, but where's the rights of the victim?
That doesn't help the victim. Who to blame does not help the victim, but
right. But what I'm saying is the victims have the victims' families, and by the way, there's five people who are not killed, who should be entitled to redress, to some kind of financial. And I'm not saying
what the state of Michigan offers. Some states do, and some states don't. And
well, then,
some only for murder, and of course that's only the families. And if it's the victim themselves and they live through it, then they might get something. But you would be shocked at how low it is.
Yeah. Well, that's why I'm saying is that I know that the value of if you were to repossess the father's house and his money, it may not come to a lot, but you can start there. And whoever sold him the gun, here's the point, is that this, we have to stop talking about the problem. What's the motive? The motive of the gun problem is, number one, money, right? The motive why we have all these guns, the one and only reason is money.
I'm almost questioning if it is, because there seems to be some kind of concerted effort on the part of the Republicans to cause chaos amongst their followers.
Yeah.
And I think that along with the abortion and the racist stuff, is all part of the chaos that they're trying to create, which then the strong leader has to step in and save the day.
Right.
And thus fascism is in.
But that to me sounds like it's true, but that's a secondary advantage that they have.
Well, I mean, yeah, they want the money, but this is the means to get there, to have a tighter grip, even though the top 1% basically has it all right now.
But the gun industry, it starts out with the gun industry and their money, and they own the Republican Party. And so all of this chaos that is trying to perpetuate the cycle so that there's more violence and then people want more guns. And I mean, the first thing I wanted to write was,
right.
this would have never happened. This would have never happened if all 45,000 students at Michigan State campus had a gun. I mean, there would. I mean, does everybody really think that that's a good idea? That 45,000 students on Michigan State
I
campus?
think it would have still happened if all of them had a gun.
Well, to sound as cynical as you are, is that I think the right wing would really rather have that because there would be so much what do they call it, collateral death from crossfire confusion. If everybody's shooting each other, they would say, "Oh, well, good. That's what those liberals who don't want to have to pay their student loans back. That's what they deserve."
Yeah. So, but I mean, the thing of it is that that's the fallacy of the everybody being armed is everybody could have totally had a gun on their hip, and this happened. I don't think it happened like out in the middle of a baseball field or whatever. It happened. I thought it was in like a walkway in a school or something. So
well, I'm very familiar with exactly where the shootings took place.
So was it okay? So tell me, was it out in the open or was it in more not open?
Not open like a baseball field, but it was on the campus's streets, and they're kind of windy streets that go through. So he started out at Berkey Hall, which is actually what I thought was Berkey Hall, Grand River Avenue, which is a big, median in the middle, let's see, I guess it's 2 lanes each way at that point. I thought, oh, he's going to cross Grand River Avenue and go up into the neighborhood. That's where I used to live. And I thought, now that would be terrifying. He's losing it. But I thought, okay, he's on campus. But they said the next report was now shots fired at I Am East, which is the intramural workout, the fitness center on East Campus, which is, you got to remember, East Michigan State campus is huge. It's gigantic. It's huge.
Okay.
It's a city. It's it's like 2 miles. It's 2 miles from one end to the other. And
okay, but was it likely that there was going to be a huge amount of people in that vicinity, or was there a huge amount of people in that vicinity?
If there was a class going on, yeah, not a huge at that hour at 8:30 at night. No, but maybe a class let out and he shot.
Oh, so it was actually in the dark of night. So
right. So he ran down. Which surprised me is from where he was, and then to go to I Am East, because there's a river at that point. There's only two ways to get across the river, and they were 2 bridges. So he had to at some point be out in the open, because you can duck between the. So what he did was he was ducking.
Okay, but I mean, here's the thing about guns, and anybody that's ever used one is, if you don't practice like weekly, your shot will just be a danger to you and others. You can't like go, oh, I've got to get that bad guy over there. That's not happening. No. You're gonna just either shoot it into the air or side of a building or somebody else.
Yeah, that's why I think what he did. This is what I would have imagined. Is it? He was on camp. However, he got on Y, but he wasn't in his car. He was on foot, and maybe a night class let out at Berkey Hall. And as people were coming out, he just shot at them.
Right.
And then
then he ran. He had a semi-automatic gun, right? So he could just spray it.
Right, and into people who were coming out down the stairs of Berkey Hall. And then he ran through, I can see his pathway. And then he had to have gone across probably the Bogue Street Bridge to get across the river. And then he was headed down Shaw Lane. And he
was on foot.
Yeah, and then he shot people. The next place, he didn't go into the dorms, I don't think. He ran past a bunch of dorms. But the I Am East Fitness Center is where people would probably been working out at night. So they were coming in and out. And I think he just opened up sprayed some people coming in and out of there.
Oh, he sprayed twice?
Yeah.
Oh.
And then and that's why I say, he was on his way to his car, which he probably parked over on East Campus somewhere, or East off campus, because if he was at the fitness center, he was about a quarter mile from getting off East Campus, where he probably had his car. And then he drove.
There was no chance whatsoever that there would be a security guard in that area. It was just a place where people took classes. It wasn't like the student union or something official.
Apparently he did go through. Yeah, I did hear he was in the student union. No, there's no.
He did go to the student union?
Yeah, but the student union. Oh, well, I see. That's why they reported Berkey Hall. I don't know. The student union is just around the corner from Berkey Hall, so he was. I can see that. I can see that pathway. He ran down, and at this point, Grand River Avenue is on the other side of those buildings. Big Avenue, around. He's in the kind of back and behind these buildings. He was at the student union. I don't know where the actual deaths were, but yeah, between Union and Berkey Hall, because they said on the first report is the shots rang out somewhere near Berkey Hall. So yeah, the student union is near Berkey, just a little.
Was he wearing like a bulletproof stuff? Like,
I didn't hear. I haven't heard about that.
Oh, okay.
He's
so
definitely running. I can imagine his direction, and that's what I said. Where is he going? And then when they said he was down at IM East, then I thought he must have gone. He had to have crossed the river at Bogue Street to get to Shaw Lane and go east on Shaw Lane. And so then I think, oh, he's gotten his car. His car must be off campus because there's no place to park over there on campus.
Yep.
So
you can't risk getting a ticket. Well,
wait, he doesn't shove in his car. Your car's been sorry. Your car's been towed.
The cops, but the meter maids don't.
Yeah, you parked your car. Oh, sorry, your car's been towed. No, now you're busted, right? Oh, were you the one who was shooting? Oh, sorry, I'm just about to finish this ticket here.
Yeah.
No, his car would have been if he parked on campus, his car would have been gone for sure. That would have been towed before he even made it to Berkey Hall. So. Yeah, so I figure his car his car was parked, just on the other side of Hagedorn Road probably, and he got back because he was headed up north on Hagedorn Road is where they finally got him.
So did you hear, because I heard there was a note, but I didn't hear what was in the note. Did you hear what was in the note?
No.
Oh, okay. I don't know. They were talking about a note because they didn't know why he did it, but I didn't hear it. No. I did not hear that the note, I don't know if they said what the note was in or if it explained anything at all. I mean, I don't know. I just wondered since you knew so much that.
But I don't care what his reason was. It doesn't matter.
Oh, no, his reason does not matter. It's whatever reason it is the stupidest reason on earth.
Yeah, and he apparently, I did hear, I don't know to what degree, that he had sent some threatening messages, I don't know, maybe emails or on Facebook or something to people at a college in New Jersey. I don't know. People
he knew or just random people?
Don't know if he knew them or no, I don't know. But he didn't know anybody. He didn't know any of these people, apparently. He had no connection to the university, but he lives, I guess, the direction he was, I don't know. His car, I know.
I think we can rule out that he's not crazy. I mean, I think he probably is crazy.
Well, okay, but I'm not willing to go there because
I mean, it's not an excuse, but it is something to know, because if you try to figure out what the rationale behind an irrational person, you are not going to come up with anything.
Well, this only makes me, because if his father said that he become so angry almost to be evil, then
that's just
I'm saying that. Then why are you allowing him to have a gun in your house?
Well, I mean, why did the lady, the mother of Adam Lanza, she had a closet full of guns.
Yeah.
And she took him out target practicing.
Yeah.
With the guns. This kid who was
you see it once again.
On a scale of 1 to 10, autistic, 10.
Yeah, well, you're making my point. Is that this isn't so much about mental illness as it is screwed up families.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No,
Same thing with the shooter.
Beyond the pale. That one. He couldn't function as a normal person in any scenario. No scenario.
Here's the other one. The Oxford school, the school shooting, Oxford high school shooting that was year over in 2021, November 2021. That Ethan Cromley, the parents who. Oh. Okay, so here's another one.
Yep.
There's no law that compelled them to lock up that gun. In fact, the Supreme Court, here's the other thing. The Supreme Court, this is why I think civil laws are the way to go, because in Heller versus DC, the first case that went to the Supreme Court where they made a murder and mayhem by gun, kind of this is the first step was Antonin Scalia in all his wisdom said that states cannot compel make laws that compel people to lock up their guns or put trigger locks or anything that would impede immediate access to their firearm for self-protection. So you can't force people to lock up their guns, but if there are liability laws, people can choose to lock up their guns if they don't want to get sued.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why the parents of this kid who shot the people in the high school, I mean, they're despicable people, but I can think of lots of defenses where they weren't necessarily negligent. It's a tragedy. But what they want to do, everybody wants to blame the school administrators for not doing enough. And I'll guarantee you that the next thing we're going to hear is that somehow it's the fault of Michigan State University for not protecting, and because there's your deep pockets money.
Yeah. Well, you can bet your bottom dollar that somebody will be suing the school.
Yep. Because
even though all they really were was just a building that people meet at.
Yep. This is what really angers me is that, they're talking about locking all the buildings up. They probably are more already. But when I was there,
it's not going to help.
It's not. And the other thing is, when I was there, I was literally on campus in and out of buildings at every hour of the day and night. Because for one thing, I was a midnight janitor. That's what I worked from 11 p.m. until 3 a.m. That's how I got through school. And I was often, a lot of times when I was a music student, I would practice at 3 o'clock in the morning. Mm-hmm. Because you can always get a room. It's peaceful.
I know, but you know what they say, whatever, right after it happens, and then when it's all smoke cleared, it goes back to exactly the way it was. Like that.
But they have as things get crazier, they have locked the campus. The campus is locked down more than it used to be. I just think that. So here's the thing: we have to lose our freedom as a society. Our freedoms are being taken up by the freedom to worship guns, and the gun tail is wagging the dog.
Yep. That tail does a lot of wagging. I know that. But guess what? It is time to wrap it up.
Well, that was quick.
I know. Time flies when you talk about guns.
That's right. Wow,
they whistle through the air. Anyways, thanks everybody for joining us, and we'll see you next week for another Phantasmagoria. This has been Joyce Nance and
Paul Richardson. I'll have to look that one up.
Yep, is a big word.